In the heart of Edo State lies Benin City, a land steeped in tradition, crowned with bronze works, and guided by the wisdom of its ancestors. The city is not only known for its mighty Oba and the grandeur of its palace walls, but also for the strength of its people who believe that the soul of a family rests on truth, respect, and legacy. In Benin, every stone in the red earth whispers of history. The markets are filled with the voices of traders calling out their good spices, beads, palm oil, and woven cloths. Children run freely between the stalls, while the elders sit beneath the shade of giant trees, their lips heavy with proverbs. And one proverb was often repeated from generation to generation: a lie may hide for years, but the truth will always rise like the sun. This saying was more than just words, it was a warning. For in Benin, people knew that secrets, no matter how carefully buried, had a way of breaking free, sometimes to heal, but often to wound. It is in this city of rich culture, strong values, and unshakable memory that our story begins. Story of a woman, her secret, and the painful truth that shook the walls of a family. Among the people of Benin City lived a young woman named Emwinma. She was beautiful, graceful, and admired by many men in the marketplace and the palace courtyards. Her laughter was like the sound of ivory bells, and her steps carried the pride of her ancestors. Emwinma met a man in her youthful days, who worked in a big company. He was gentle, hardworking, and his eyes carried kindness. Their love was quick to blossom like the early yam shoots after the rains. Yet, hidden deep in her heart was a truth she feared to reveal. A secret seed was already growing in her womb, and it was not his. The man, blinded by love, did not notice her silence. He believed the gods had smiled on him, giving him a woman who would bear him strong sons and daughters. He made plans for marriage, unaware that the foundation of his joy was already cracked by a lie. In Benin, the elders often say, a woman who hides her pregnancy is like one who covers fire with dry leaves. Smoke will soon give her away. But Emwinma chose silence, convincing herself that the secret would remain buried forever. She entered her new home, carrying not only her beauty, but also the weight of her hidden truth. The marriage between Emwinma and her husband was celebrated with joy. Drummers beat their talking drums, women danced in circles with coral beads jingling on their waists, and the air was filled with the sweet aroma of palm wine and pepper soup. To the people, it was a union blessed by the ancestors. The man was proud, had taken a wife of beauty and grace. He walked through the streets of Benin with his head high, smiling as friends and neighbors congratulated him. To him, his world was complete. But within the walls of their new home, the hidden seed continued to grow. Months later, Emwinma gave birth to a baby boy. The child was healthy, with bright eyes and the cry of a strong one. The man rejoiced, believing he had become a father. He lifted the boy in his arms and declared before the family elders, "This is my son, my first fruit, the one who will carry my name and remember me when I am gone." The elders blessed the child, pouring libation to the ancestors, while the man's chest swelled with pride. He did not know that the blood running in the boy's veins was not his. Emwinma remained silent, her heart heavy with guilt, but her face painted with smiles. She watched as her husband showered love and care on the child, raising him with tenderness. In Benin, the people say, the child of another man may sit in your house, but his shadow will one day point to his true father. But for now, the man's joy was complete, and the woman's secret remained hidden beneath the veil of marriage. The woman, carrying a secret in her heart, remained with the man in Benin City. Though the first child she bore was not truly his, she hid the truth and allowed him to believe the boy was his own flesh and blood. In time, their union blossomed further, and together they bore 2 more children, truly his own. His joy multiplied, his laughter filled the compound, and his heart rested in the pride of fatherhood. But though life appeared perfect, hidden truths are like buried embers. One day, they will glow and set a fire that no one can quench. Years passed, and the family in Benin City grew in strength and in joy. His household was filled with the laughter of children, first boy, growing tall and sharp-minded, and the 2 younger ones, full of energy and mischief. The man spared nothing for his family. He sent them to the best schools he could afford, clothed them in fine garments, and ensured that their mother lacked nothing. To his neighbors he was the picture of a good father, one who carried his family on his shoulders with pride. The woman, too, basked in the comfort of this life. She looked upon her husband with respect, and upon her children with pride. But deep in her heart, a storm brewed. Every time she gazed upon her first son, a whisper reminded her of the secret she had buried, truth of his bloodline. In Benin, the elders often say, no matter how far a man travels, he cannot outrun his own shadow. And so it was with this family. For though love held them together, the shadow of truth stretched silently across their home, waiting for the day it would rise with the morning sun. As the years rolled by, the first son grew into a fine young man. He was bright, courageous, and carried himself with confidence. But the people of Benin City are keen observers, for in their eyes, nothing remains hidden for long. At the market, women began to whisper as the boy passed. "Have you noticed? He does not carry the face of his father." One would murmur, her voice lowered yet sharp. Another would nod, adding true talk. The other two bows are his very image, but this first one, his eyes, his walk, even his latter something is different. At first, the man dismissed these murmurs as idle talk of busybodies. He loved the boy dearly and refused to let gossip trouble his heart. But in Benin, there is a saying, when the lizard nods too often, it is not always because it agrees, it may also be from the burden on its head. The whispers grew louder, reaching the ears of friends, neighbors, and eventually, the elders. Even in the compound, relatives began to cast questioning glances at the boy. When the children had grown older, the man received an opportunity that many in Benin longed for, to travel abroad in search of greener pastures. With love for his family burning in his heart, he promised his wife and children that he would return with wealth to build them a stronger future. On the day of his departure, the entire compound was filled with emotions. Neighbors gathered to bid him farewell, and the woman and children wept at the thought of his absence. He embraced his first son tightly, saying, "You are my first fruit. While I am away, be strong and protect your mother and brothers." The boy nodded, unaware of the heavy truth that lay hidden in his very blood. Years passed. From abroad, the man worked tirelessly, sending money back home. He built a bigger house in Benin City, and his children were clothed in fine garments. His heart swelled with pride whenever he wrote letters or sent gifts, believing his family was thriving. Years later, when the man had fully established himself abroad, his heart turned toward his children. He wished to give them better opportunities, so he began the process of relocating them, starting with his first son, one he had always called his pride and first fruit. He prepared the documents, arranged for the boy's schooling, and even boasted to his friends abroad, "My son will soon join me. He is my firstborn, my heir." But during the immigration process, certain requirements arose. DNA test was requested to confirm the biological relationship between father and son. At first, the man agreed casually, confident in his love for the boy. To him, this was just a formality. The test was conducted. Days later, the results arrived. When the man opened the envelope, his hands trembled. His eyes scanned the paper, and the words hit him like a dagger to the chest. The boy was not his biological son. Silence engulfed him. His heart pounded, his breath grew shallow, and the room spun around him. For years, he had loved, labored, and sacrificed for a child who carried another man's blood. He fell to his knees and cried out, "O ancestors, why has my heart been deceived? I raised him as mine, yet the truth has betrayed me." The revelation spread quickly. Back in Benin City, tongues wagged. Neighbors shook their heads. Some pitied the man, others scorned the woman for her deceit. The woman herself could no longer hide. When confronted, she wept bitterly, confessing the secret she had carried all her life. "It was a mistake of my youth, a truth I feared to speak. Forgive me." But forgiveness did not come easily. The wound was too deep, the betrayal too sharp. In Benin, the elders often say, "A knife may be withdrawn from the body, but the scar will remain forever." The man's soul was scarred. Though he had raised the boy with love, the truth had broken his spirit.
When the truth of the DNA result burned like fire in his heart, the man could no longer remain abroad. With heavy steps, he boarded a plane back to Nigeria, his mind filled with questions, his chest swollen with grief. Upon his arrival in Benin City, word spread quickly that he had returned. The wife, knowing that her secret had finally caught up with her, trembled with fear. She fell to her knees the moment he stepped into their compound, tears streaming down her face. "My husband, forgive me," she cried, her voice breaking. "I never meant to hurt you, but I did not know how to tell you the truth." The man's eyes burned with anger and sorrow. "Tell me then, tell me why you deceived me for all these years, why you allowed me to carry another man's blood as my own." The woman wept uncontrollably. At last, with trembling lips, she confessed, "When you and I began our courtship, I was already with child. I knew from the beginning that the pregnancy was not yours. But I was afraid. Afraid that you would leave me, afraid that I would lose the life I dreamed of with you. I thought if I kept silent, the truth would die with me. But lies, as the elders say, never sleep forever. Her words hung heavy in the air, carried by the silence of the compound. The man staggered as if struck by a spear. He clutched his chest and whispered bitterly, "So all these years, you watched me raise him, call him my son, and you said nothing? You allowed me to carry the pride of another man as my heir?" The wife beat her chest in sorrow. "I was young, foolish, and weak. I thought time would bury the truth, but it has risen against me. Forgive me, my husband, forgive me." But forgiveness was not easy. The man's heart was torn between the love he had built with his family and the betrayal that had shattered his trust. In Benin, the elders say, "The truth may be bitter, but it is medicine. A lie may be sweet, but it is poison." The poison had now spread into their home.
As the storm of truth raged in the household, the boy, now a young man, stood silently in the corner, his heart pounding like the talking drum. He had overheard every word, the DNA, the confession, the bitter quarrels. His world seemed to shatter before his very eyes. Tears welled in his eyes as he stepped forward. His voice trembled, yet it carried the strength of his soul. "Father, whether they like it or not, you remain my father. From the day I opened my eyes to this world. It was you who carried me, clothed me, and called me son. It may tie me to another man, but love ties me to you, and love is stronger than blood." The compound fell into silence. The man's chest tightened as he looked at the boy, his first fruit, the child he had raised, the one who had brought him pride for years. The boy fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "If you cast me away now, where will I go? Who will I call father? My life began in your arms, and it will remain there. Nothing can change that." The man's eyes glistened, his anger battling with his love. He turned his face away, for his heart was torn in two. He had been deceived. Yet here was the boy, clinging to him with sincerity deeper than blood. In Benin, the elders say, "A father is not only the one whose blood you carry, but the one whose sweat has raised you." The boy's words pierced through the man's pain, softening his hardened heart. But the wound of betrayal still lingered, a scar that no plea could erase.
The days that followed were heavy in the household. The man's spirit was restless. At night, he tossed on his bed, staring at the ceiling, his heart torn between bitterness and love, his once proud shoulders now bent by sorrow. The family soon called a meeting. Relatives, elders, and close friends gathered in the compound, their voices rising and falling like the waves of River Oss. Some pleaded with him, "My son, do not throw away your home. Remember the years of laughter, the sacrifices already made. The woman has sinned, but even sinners seek forgiveness." Others were harsher. "No, a woman who could carry such a secret cannot be trusted. She has mocked your manhood. Let her go." The man sat quietly, his eyes fixed on the ground, saying little. His mind was a battlefield. He remembered the years of love meals they had shared, the children's laughter, but he also felt the sting of betrayal, the wound of deception that cut him deeply. In the quiet of his heart, he prayed, "God, give me wisdom. My heart is bleeding, yet I do not wish to destroy what I have built." That night, as the compound grew still, the bow's words echoed in his mind, "Whether they like it or not, you remain my father." It was a knife and a balm at the same time. His love for the boy and the two younger children pulled him in one direction, while the bitterness toward his wife dragged him in another. In Benin, the elders say, "A man who carries water in one hand and oil in the other must choose carefully, for both cannot be held for long." The man knew a choice was coming: forgive and live with the scar, or cast her away and live with the emptiness. The struggle lasted many moons, but in the end, the man's heart could no longer carry the burden of betrayal. The scar of deceit was too deep, and the peace of his spirit was broken. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the red earth walls of Benin City, he called his family together in the courtyard. The wife stood trembling, her eyes swollen from endless weeping. The children sat in silence, their hearts heavy with fear. The man spoke slowly, his voice filled with pain, but also with finality. "I have thought long and hard. I have listened to the elders. I have prayed to the ancestors. But I cannot remain in this house with a woman whose heart kept such a secret from me. You have wounded me, Mwenma, in a way that no healing can fully mend. We must part." The woman fell to her knees, clutching his legs, weeping bitterly. "Forgive me, my husband. Do not cast me out." But the man gently pulled away, his face stern yet sorrowful. "You gave me children, you shared my life, but you also planted lies in my home. I will care for the children, for they are mine in spirit, whether or not in blood. But as for you, our path must divide." The separation was done. The woman left the compound, her cries echoing into the night, while the man remained with his children, his heart scarred but resolute. In Benin, the elders say, a secretive heart is like a pot with a crack. No matter how much you pour into it, it will one day leak and betray you. Truth may be bitter, but it saves, while lies may be sweet, but they destroy. Time passed. Seasons changed in Benin City. The man carried his pain like a heavy load, and though he had separated from his wife, his spirit remained restless. The both first son never stopped visiting him. Each time he came, he would kneel before the man and say with tears in his eyes, "Papa, whether ties bind us or not, you remain my father. You raised me, you guided me, you gave me your name. Please, let bitterness not swallow the love we share." Those words pierced the man's heart again and again. They were like rain falling on dry soil. Slowly, his anger began to soften. One evening, after many months, the wife returned once more to the compound, weeping bitterly. She fell prostrate before him, her voice cracking with sorrow. "My husband, I have wronged you beyond measure. I hid a truth that burned me every day, but I beg you." At last, the man stepped forward. He raised his wife from the ground. "I will not forget what you did. The wound will always remain, but I cannot let my home remain broken forever. For the sake of the children, and for the sake of peace, I forgive you." The courtyard erupted in tears and relief. The family embraced, and though the scar of the past could not be erased, forgiveness built a bridge where bitterness once stood. And so, the elders of Benin concluded, a broken pot may never be whole again, but water can still be gathered in it if one learns to pour with care. Forgiveness does not erase the scar, but it brings peace to the heart.